There's a mountain here before me. I'm gonna climb it, strength not my own, and he's gonna lead me, for the mountain beats me, to carry me through, to carry me through. There's a river here before me. I'm gonna cross it, strength not my own, and he's gonna carry me, for I get weary, to carry me through, to carry me through. Oh Lord, be gentle, I'm just a man, so please don't crush me with your heavenly hands. Oh Lord, remember, I try so hard, I walk in tall, your kingdom love. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Lord, sweet Lord, carry me through.
Welcome. You've got mail.
Wondrous are your ways, O God. No one can escape you. Farthest space, no deepest hell cannot hide me from you. Long before I came to birth, your eyes saw and knew me. Even in life's darkest hour, in your hands you hold me.
Hi, my name is Julia, and I'm Director of Community Outreach for Lutheran Congregational Services, serving Northeastern and Southeastern Pennsylvania Synods of the ELCA. Our work together, congregations, synods, individuals, and partners, we serve hundreds of people each year in a number of ways, striving to empower creative ministries between congregations and communities. We have a focus on justice, healing, and spiritual and emotional care. We offer these things through two of our regular standing programs, our bereavement program, and this year we're proud to have resumed in-person trainings through our grief counselor, Sylvia Havlish. Please know that she is available for one-on-one counseling as well, so please don't hesitate to reach out to us to learn more about that. And also through our lay Eucharistic visitor training program, which is also resumed in person. We're thrilled that Pastor Brandon Hebner from St. Mark's Lutheran Church in Bethlehem is part of our teaching network now. He has taught 2 sessions so far, and they are going great. He's had the biggest class sizes we've seen in a couple of years, so we're really glad to have him on board. And we continue to offer those sessions in both synods throughout the year. And if your congregation is interested in having a session at your church, please don't hesitate to reach out to us or follow us our website at lutherancongregationalservices.org to find out when the scheduled trainings are. We also try to share them through Synod e-newses as well. I also want to note that the Synod's mission of healing, of loving the land, and welcoming the stranger speaks so much to the work we do with Lutheran Disaster Response, which is really our core focus for Lutheran Congregational Services, in large part because of so many events that are taking both undeclared and declared in Pennsylvania over the last several years. Climate change is real for us. We have seen an increase in number of events the last several years, and 2021 was the first time that we have experienced a declared disaster here in Pennsylvania, with 8 counties in Pennsylvania receiving a federal declaration for individual assistance, including Northampton County and Northeastern Penn Synod, and all 5 counties of Southeastern Pennsylvania Synod. So with that work, we're finding that was from Hurricane Ida. There are 78,000 valid FEMA registrations for disaster assistance from that storm. So we're working with our partners to lead efforts to help families recover. One of the hardest things to do is identify who those people are, and that's one of the focuses we still are ongoing. Helping renters is a huge new focus of ours, and that provides unique challenges. And then in addition, the traditional work we do for homeowner rebuilding and repair is also something that we are continuing to work towards. And it will be quite a while yet until we're able to bring volunteers in to help with rebuilding from Ida, but in the meantime, we are still working in the Eastwick neighborhood of Philadelphia and have welcomed churches from Northeastern Penn Synod to help us in that effort. The Eastwick neighborhood is a wonderful place to volunteer. They were impacted by Tropical Storm Isaias in 2020, and they are still recovering. We are continuing to welcome volunteers, and we would love to have volunteers from churches in Northeastern Penn Synod come this summer and fall to continue that work. We are getting close to finishing, but we are not there yet, and we still especially need skilled folks, but we also can take folks who are willing to learn. This work that we do is possible through things like grants from the ELCA, the LDR program there, and from other sources like the Philadelphia Foundation. When an event happens, we reach out to different sources to see if we can get funding for materials, hiring additional folks, hiring case managers, and so forth. However, we wouldn't be in a position to even ask for those grants if it weren't for the support of congregations and individuals from the Northeastern Penn Synod. You are all so generous to us, and it allows me and others to stay on staff in varying capacities when there's not something happening, so that we're in a position to serve those most vulnerable when something happens. So in closing, I just want to thank you so much for your support of LCS, and thank you so much for your continued partnership. It really means a lot, and I'm very proud of the difference that we are making in Eastern Pennsylvania and beyond. Thank you so much.
Good morning and welcome back. I call this third plenary session to order. And let us turn our attention now to our worship team to guide us in our opening worship, followed by our devotional time with Reverend Kimberly Avon. Here we go.
Good morning. Here again the words from the prophet Isaiah, the 40th chapter. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. God will not grow tired or weary, and God's understanding no one can fathom. God gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young people stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. Think for a moment of the journeys you have taken in your life. Your first journey home was in someone's arms, a parent or a guardian. Someone carried you, someone cared for you. Someone held you up, held your hand, and held you close. Someone prayed for you and praised you as you grew. As you grew, you took different journeys. You learned the world on your own terms. You took in things around you with wonder. You became more you. Maybe you tried various journeys as you sought who you are. Maybe you needed lots of help. Or maybe you wanted little or no help on your own. I can do it myself. Maybe you didn't get what you needed on the journeys of your life. Some journeys brought you wonder, and some brought sadness. You will have more journeys before the end of your life when God will hold you close and carry you home at last. Anyone who knows me, and most of you don't since I'm new to your Synod, anyone who knows me knows I am the biggest Michael Jackson fan you will find. I am the curator and historian of all things Michael Jackson. Everyone knows his popular songs from ABC, I Want You Back, to Thriller, to Billie Jean and Bad. But one of my favorites and less known is called You Are Not Alone. You are not alone. I am here with you. Though you're far apart, you're always in my heart. It reminds me that we are not meant to struggle by ourselves, that we are meant for human support and companionship, and we are called to support, to cheer for, care for, and to bear each other's burdens. The Bible is filled with journeys, often people traveling, feeling alone by themselves, or traveling with someone else. Noah, Abraham, Sarah and Hagar, Jacob with Rachel and Leah, Joseph, Moses, Elijah, Elisha, Mary, Joseph, Paul and Silas, Paul and Mark, Paul and everybody Paul had a fight with. I'm just telling you the truth. Read the Bible. The disciples on their way to Emmaus, not understanding or knowing that Jesus was risen from the dead. What we hear in these stories in Scripture is someone comes along to encourage each other's heart. Another person is sent to partner with them, or God shows up. The people in Scripture discover a lot about themselves as they journey on various roads, and they learn about God. God is constantly being revealed to them. We, the Jesus movement, are on a journey. We should be constantly learning about ourselves, supporting each other, and constantly learning more about God as God is constantly revealed to us in the work and in the life of Jesus the Christ. Our goal, our responsibility as people on the Jesus way is simple. Tell the story. Tell the story about Jesus. What's so good about Jesus? We are called to teach, to tell, to proclaim, to rejoice, to testify, to baptize, to continue to bring more people into this amazing journey with us. That's it. That's all we have to do. We're out here doing a lot of different things, except that sometimes, but we're still on a journey. And we're on this journey together. We're different. There's some describe interesting how you want folks along the journey with us, and we're wondering about them, and they're looking at us thinking, wow, they're interesting too. Sometimes we think some people that are on a journey don't belong on the journey with us. Why are they here? They're not doing it like I'm doing it or as we should do it. Sometimes we don't know if we're the ones who should be on the journey, that we're not worthy. Sometimes we act like we don't need each other on this journey. But at the end, we do still share this Jesus journey and this call together to tell the world about Jesus, risen and ascended and coming again. And when we do this together, we are stronger together. With our differences, we are still united in this journey together. Think about a trip you've taken with your family or friends or on your own. What did you need when you went on this journey? A map? Maybe an atlas for those of us old enough to remember paper? Water? We need water to survive. Some food along the way. Music maybe. A book. Entertainment. Someone to keep us company, to chat, or to share the load of the trip if we're driving. Maybe emergency supplies. Whatever it helps to get us to our destination. What do we need on this Jesus journey? A map? A way to go? Scripture as our guide? Nourishment? Water? Wine? Bread? Prayer? Someone to talk to on the journey? Companionship? A community of faith to walk with us, to hold us accountable, to support us and cheer us on. Someone to hold us up and to help us along. And maybe when we're weary and unable to go another step, someone to carry us. This journey's not easy. The road gets rough and the going gets tough, and the hills are definitely hard to climb. But we don't do it alone, beloved, and we don't do it on our own strength. God restores our weary souls. God nourishes us with water and wine and bread, and we are encouraged and challenged by those who journey with us. You, the people of the Northeastern Pennsylvania Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran branch of the Jesus movement, are growing young, gaining strength, and going beyond death to life together. I encourage you to continue to pray for each other, encourage each other, hold each other accountable to the faith which we confess, teach, and believe. And sometimes along the journey, stop and look at God at work. Stop and take wonder at what is happening around you on this journey. And while you're doing it, keep waiting on God. For God will renew us. God will carry us on the wings of eagles and hold us in God's most perfect hands along the way. We continue this journey together. Let us pray. Holy and mighty God, you are good, and your mercy endures forever. We thank you for carrying us through the night and into this day. When we struggle to find the strength to go on, lift us with your loving grace. Forgive us when we mess everything up, and we will. Through your Spirit, set us on your way to invite everyone into this incredible life with Jesus the Christ. Bless this assembly as they continue to strive to be faithful to you in the work of this Synod. All of this and more we ask in the name of Jesus, our risen and ascended Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Vaughn, Senior Director Vaughn, Pastor Vaughn. We needed that. Remind us, center us, power us up in who Jesus is for us. Thank you. Thank you. Before we continue with our scheduled business, we need to step back to some additional matters. And I have conferred with Vice President Edelman Weiner, Secretary Shankweiler, and our parliamentarian, Pastor Dietz. And I've asked them to bring forward these matters, which are consistent with their duties as both in their elected and appointed roles as Vice President and as Secretary. And so I now turn the platform over to Secretary Shankweiler.
Thank you, Bishop DeForest. It was brought to our attention yesterday that there was a category missed in the electing of people to the Synod Council. There were 7 open seats on Synod Council, and those seats are assigned to certain categories of persons. And the category that was missed were clergy. There were 2 open seats there, and so there was the possibility of electing 2 more persons to Synod Council. That was brought to our attention by someone who had submitted a nomination form for that, and obviously correctly wondered what happened to that form. And so we are looking to make provision so that the election of persons to the Synod Council in the category clergy can occur today. And for that, I would turn us to our Vice President.
Thank you, Carl. Okay, everybody. Well, we don't always begin our plenaries with the wild world of Robert's rules, but when we do, we are looking at suspending the rules. Let me tell you a little bit about this provision in Robert's rules and assure you that this is a fairly simple matter, but I want to walk you through it so you feel, as voting members, that we are all walking in the same direction and we're doing it in a unified way. Suspending the rules does not mean abandoning the rules. In this case, Robert's rules, our Constitution, or our bylaws, or any of that. It means, in this case, what we need to do is add a piece of business as a package deal to our agenda. In this case, we're going to be not only revising the agenda to add in the nominations, but we also need to add into plenary for an opportunity for election if that should occur. Because we already voted to approve the agenda, that was the first vote you took with me in plenary 1, we must together also give our permission to change that agenda and add this business. To be sure, we are not taking anything away, we are making additions. And the basic rights of you, our individual voting members, are, especially in this case, not only being protected, but also being put forward. Because of this, unless there is an objection, we are putting the resolution before the assembly, and I am going to ask for consensus. Can we see that resolution? All right. This is the resolution that nominations for 2 open seats on the Synod Council for clergy be received before the report of the Vice President, and that would be in Plenary 3, and that if an election is required, that it be held as the first item of business in Plenary Session 4. I'm going to give you a moment, because that is newly before you, to take some time to reread that. Again, voting members from Northeastern Pennsylvania Synod, I'm asking for what's called a consensus. That is, unless there is anybody who objects to this resolution, which is the adjustment of the agenda, proceeding with nominations from the floor, and possibly a subsequent election in Plenary 4, we will adopt together this resolution. I am watching in Zoom, as is everybody here with me. Do we have any objections from you, our members on the floor, to this resolution? I am watching for objections. Okay. Looking around, and I think the general agreement is we've allowed enough time to pass in case there was an objection. Hearing none, seeing none, yep, and confirming that we see none, the resolution passes. Thank you, voting members. We appreciate the fact that you were gracious with us to allow us to make the necessary changes. And so we will proceed forward with our plenary. I will see you before the beginning of my address to work through the nominations for Clergy for Synod Council. I'll be back soon.
Very good. Thank you all, and thank you, Vice President and Secretary. Now I have the joy of welcoming back Lauren Applegate and Stacy Burke with some more perspectives on growing young. Take it away.
So we've seen so far 2 examples of what it looks like to have leaders like you prioritizing young people and their families everywhere. So what does it mean to prioritize young people and their families everywhere?
Prioritizing young people everywhere means that youth are not limited to doing kid things like Sunday school and Youth Sunday. Instead, we make space for young people in the day-to-day life of our community. Prioritizing young people means that we consider how the workings of the whole of our congregation are currently unwelcoming to young people and their families.
Prioritizing young people requires us to consider our community's priorities by asking questions like these. Who do we expect to fundraise for their activities, and who has a line item in our budget? Who benefits from having their needs and expectations consistently met while in worship? Who do we listen to when we're making anxious decisions? Who has special events? And who are our regularly scheduled events geared towards? How are we holding space and speaking truth to the pain and broken relationships within families? And how can we better support families through difficult times?
Asking these questions can be really difficult. Understanding our current priorities as Jesus-centered community can be uncomfortable and may bring up lots of emotions. Press on. God is with you.
Understanding our current priorities helps us know the makeup of who we are, so that we can dig deep into the bedrock of whose we are, as Reverend Kimberly Vaughn pointed to this morning, and allow for God's love and inclusion of all people, especially the youngest among us, to change how we do what we do and the decisions we make. Instead of preserving what we are used to or have become accustomed to, we will begin to shift priority and preference to those who are easily silenced or cast out.
These changes will allow us to be fruitful and life-giving relationships with the communities in which we are planted.
So join us in prioritizing young people everywhere.
Yes. Yes. Awesome. We are, and we'll continue in that work together. Thank you to Stacy Burke and to Lauren Applegate. I am now joyously glad to say that it is time to receive the report from our Synod Vice President, Kristen Edelman-Weiner, and she's also going to be setting other pieces up for us as well. So here she comes over to the podium, presenting our Vice President, Kristen Edelman-Weiner. Go!
Okay, I think I still have my mask on. Okay, hold on. It's wild. It's wild for a Saturday morning. I assure you, we're okay. We're okay. First, before my address, we need to take time to do the nominations from the floor for Synod Council clergy seats. There are 2 seats on Synod Council that are open to clergy. Now, I do want to turn that piece back over to the bishop, and go ahead, Bishop.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kristen. So we now are presenting 2 candidates for the 2 clergy positions, correct? Clergy positions, or to fill those clergy positions on our Synod Council. They are Linda Zawalski and Maritza Dolich. And so now we are putting their names forward. We have these 2 seats. We are also opening the floor up to any further nominations from the floor. So we're going to take our time now to allow that to happen. If you wish to nominate yourself, you may, or nominate another that you have spoken to for this position of clergy for Synod Council, then please raise your hand. And there are 2 open positions, correct? So bring in the nominations. If someone feels so moved by the Spirit to do that, please do so. We will now pause and raise your hand if you wish to nominate yourself or another. That nomination process can begin now. We are watching here to see if we get any further nominations. And it looks like we have no further nominations from the floor. So now we will, we can declare, because of that, we can declare these 2 positions elected because of the fact that we have no other contested parts in that election. So I am glad to announce the election to Synod Council of 2 new clergy members. They are Linda Zawalski and Maritza Dolich. Thank you and congratulations. We look forward to the good work we're going to do together. And speaking about that kind of good work, because she's at the center of it and is both a guide and a participant in that, moving our Synod towards all the good work that God has us to be doing now and in the future. I give the floor back to our Vice President, Kristen Edelman-Weiner.
Thank you, Bishop. I agree. How timely to be working on a piece of business that directly involves Synod Council right before I am addressing you today, my fellow voting members here for Northeastern Pennsylvania Synod. As the Synod's Vice President, I am the Chairman of the Synod Council, and it just seems fitting that I begin with a quote from our Synod's Constitution. This is a joy. Here we go. In our Constitution, and in fact in every Synod's Constitution, there is this, S6-0303, in strengthening interdependent relationships among congregations, synods, and churchwide organization, and in fostering relationships with agencies and institutions affiliated with or related to this church, as well as with ecumenical partners. The responsibilities of this synod include, and then there's a long list, but the very first one that is mentioned is this: promoting interdependent relationships among congregations, synods, and other churchwide organizations. Well, that may have bored everybody but Carl, right? That was riveting for you, right? Riveting. But here's the point of that paragraph. As congregations, as a synod, and as church-wide, we must recognize that we are interdependent with each other. Not independent, not codependent, right, Eric? But right in the middle. And we must take care to actively work towards strengthening that interdependence and engage in actions that foster relationships with each other, with other organizations, and with other denominational bodies. But what does it mean, really, to be interdependent? It means a lot, actually. And at first it may seem like we're just talking about connection with each other, but it's actually much deeper than that. I usually intertwine nature with some of my observations with what's going on here in the Synod, and this year is no different. So I know that the bishop has asked you to visualize buses, and that Reverend Vaughn this morning talked about transportation. And so I'm going to ask you to transport yourself into a meadow this morning. So we're doing a little visualization here. And if you can picture this, so there's an acre to the side of my house that used to be farmed rather heavily in corn and soybeans. So I think you know that corn and soybean rotation. But of course, with the corn and soybean rotation came a heavy dose of fertilizer and other chemicals to suppress the weeds. So at a certain point, my husband and I decided that we would like to let that acre return back to nature. And for the first few years, it was a real struggle. It's on a bit of a hill, and there's nothing but shale, so it was very brown. Over time, some green stuff started moving in, mostly thistle and horseweed and you know, the stuff that maybe we're a little bit less excited about having. But then, almost miraculously, one year there appeared six plants, all kind of clustered together. And I excitedly went out to them to see what they were, and lo and behold, it was a brand new patch of milkweed. And I was very, very excited. You might remember milkweed from your youth, but those of us who are watching nature and especially love the butterflies know that milkweed is a monarch magnet. And so I told my husband under no certain circumstances was he to mow that entire acre just in case we had more milkweed that was going to grow. So visualize this. Let me take you into that milkweed patch and what it looks like today, because it's rather large as of 2022. The milkweed plant is the host plant for monarch butterflies. Monarchs lay their eggs on the underside of the leaves where their eggs will stay protected. That way, when the caterpillar hatches, the caterpillar is also very conveniently right on the only plant that it can eat. And so it grows big and fat right on the milkweed plant. Some of those caterpillars, of course, using this milkweed plant to grow nice and fat, do eventually become adult monarch butterflies. Some of those caterpillars, of course, because we're talking about the interconnection of life here, do become feed. In fact, cardinals especially do love to pick off the monarch caterpillar butterflies, feeding them not only to themselves but also to their young to help ensure the survival of their species. Meanwhile, as the plant grows, of course, it develops blossoms, and that nectar that's sitting in the blossom not only attracts monarch butterflies, but it also attracts specialty bees and wasps. What's really interesting about the flower is that it is very unique. A milkweed flower is actually a very tricky kind of flower, and there are certain insects that manage to get themselves, unfortunately, very much stuck in a milkweed flower. That's why we need some of our specialty native bees and wasps to take care of the pollination for the milkweed, which ends up taking care of the needs of the monarch butterflies, who end up taking care of the needs of our bird population. Can you see where this is going? Right? Yeah. It's all interconnected. Without any one of these moving pieces, without the birds or the butterflies, their caterpillar forms, and especially the milkweed and even the shape of the milkweed flowers. Life would be diminished for all. Take any one of those living organisms out of the picture, and while there might be some adaptation, there would almost also certainly be loss. We know this because we're watching the populations of monarchs and even some of our bird species rapidly decline. And it's no coincidence that the decline is also coming hand in hand with the decline of the milkweed that can grow rampantly, and also the wasp and the specialty bee species that help to do the pollination. It is an interdependent ecosystem. And so it is also with us and with organizations that we belong to. And the Synod is no different. Consider the congregation, the Synod, and the ELCA to be like the ecosystem, the milkweed patch, and we are the organisms within it. So what does interdependence look like for an organization? Because hopefully we're not all eating each other. For our Synod, it means viewing our church body in northeastern Pennsylvania not as individual, independent congregations or worshiping communities, but as a beautiful living system of connections and the interwovenness that joins all of us. That what we do, even in our own small corners, affects, changes, and strengthens or even hurts ourselves and each other. It's an awareness that the choices, the decisions we make, the words we speak, and the words we write are seen and they are heard by others. And they ripple out. And they have an impact beyond your doors in ways that you see and in ways that you don't. In ways that you can anticipate and in ways that will surprise you. Sometimes the impact is immediate, and sometimes the impact remains years after the fact. Think about all you heard and saw yesterday in plenaries 1 and 2 at the Synod Assembly. What did others say or do that is still with you, for better or for worse? What did others say, or not do that is with you, for better or for worse? Have your awareness and understanding or faith changed or grown in even the tiniest bit as a result of being with us in plenaries 1 and 2 yesterday? I know mine has. I have appreciation anew for many of the moving pieces of our greater church and a newfound awe of Reverend Kimberly Vaughn and all that she has taken under her wing. I am committed to being on that bus with the bishop and with you for that faith-filled ride into this next year. And I am still reflecting on so much. The art from Pastor Deb Taylor's faith meditation and how it spoke to me. The music from our talented musicians and singers and how those pieces, so fitting for their moment, spoke to me. And believe it or not, yes, for sure, the financial charts from Don's treasury reports and how those spoke to me as well. Definitely one of the best treasury reports we have had. And Don, again, thank you so much for letting us know where we stand. Each piece impactful and brought to me by others who share my faith and participate in the life of this denomination and synod. How lucky am I? We give and we receive both concurrently and at all times. Interdependency is the awareness that we affect each other. It fosters relationship building. It fosters inclusion. And it fosters grace between us and others. Interdependency looks like you and me and all of us here at the Synod Assembly working together right now and knowing that our decisions continue forward and outward, and even after we've pressed the leave meeting button on Zoom today. The ripples of our faithful work continue in your congregation and here at the Synod office as we bring each other into the fabric of our faith, the blessed ties that truly bind us. I've just spent a lot of time clarifying and stressing the importance of interdependence, and you might be wondering how all of this has to do with the Synod Council. So allow me, especially for my fellow lay people, I'd like to spend some time explaining the Synod Council because I believe that this is really important. And believe it or not, we had some vacant seats on Synod Council, and the subdued interest in serving on Synod Council right up until the point of our assembly, I really felt to be a very serious matter. And so I'd like to take some time here and let's talk about what it is that the Synod Council does. Well, the three expressions, congregations, synods, and churchwide strive to work together ultimately for synod business. The buck stops at the Synod Council. It is the Synod Council with its 20 members, 2 youth members, and 4 officers nominated and elected by you in the Synod that decides the matters of business that affect 248 congregations, 3 worshiping communities, and all those whose livelihoods and interests are wrapped up in it. It's no joke. Synod Council is composed entirely of members from across the Synod. While the bishop is a member of Synod Council, you might not know this, but there's no member of bishop's staff who has a vote on council, nor do the deans. Interdependence comes in the form of representation from you, from our mission districts and the Synod generally. Council seats are in 3-year terms. They are distributed between clergy and lay, male, female, and 2 seats are specifically reserved for representation by persons of color and by persons whose first language is other than English, but we are by no means confined to only those 2 seats. 2 additional seats are extended to youth representation for 2-year terms. You might remember that you saw Dan Toby participating and offering a prayer for us. He's one of our youth members for Synod Council and a very active one. And the 4 officers, the bishop, the vice president, the secretary, and the treasurer, are all elected by the Synod Assembly rotationally. I also want to assure you that equal voice and vote for each member means that no one person is going to wrest control or have disproportionate power, not even the bishop. We adhere to Robert's Rules of Order. You've heard the bishop say several times during the plenaries yesterday how important Robert's Rules are, and we strive very much to hold on to and operate by the Robert's Rules of Order specifically because of their design and their efficacy in promoting all voices and bringing those voices to the table in a very equalizing manner. Synod Council is representative of all of us, doing work on behalf of all of us here in northeastern Pennsylvania. Still not convinced of how important this group of people is? Consider this, and you may not know this. If something were to happen to our bishop, where he could no longer serve as bishop, be it due to death, a sudden inability to do the job, or another disaster, and you can let your mind wander there, it is not the bishop's staff that assumes the helm of the Synod. It is the vice president and the council. That's right. Me and the council. In the Constitution, we are the backup plan. And don't assume that that part of the Constitution never gets exercised. As long as I've been vice president, I have witnessed this at least 3 times to other synods. Now that you've learned a bit more about Synod Council and the seriousness of Synod Council, there are 2 takeaways I would like for you to keep with you, hopefully long after I'm done talking, and take with you to share with others as well. First of all, the first takeaway is this: Synod Council is important. Synod Council is you, and it depends on you. Seats on Synod Council are filled by you. They're filled with your nominations, your prayerful considerations, and your votes. We entered the assembly with 5 open seats on Synod Council for which no one had submitted a nomination. That means we took 5 from the floor, and I am so thankful for you. All of you. To me, as the chair, had they remained unfilled, that would have been 5 voices we were missing, 5 different perspectives and life experiences that could have helped inform us, and 5 other sets of questions and ideas that we would have been missing. And I care deeply about that. Any seats that remain unfilled after an assembly, according to the bylaws, can and would have been appointed, and we certainly would have used careful consideration in filling those seats. But I think we can agree that that's not the same organic process. It doesn't truly involve the entire synod, and that would have been a shame. The second takeaway I would like for you to hold in your heart well after I am done speaking, and I promise you it will not be for another 10 minutes. You can participate in the life of the synod. Yes, you. And we welcome you, and you should see the bishop dancing and nodding his head. We want you here. I'd like to share with you an activity the Synod Council participated in, because I'm really thrilled with this, in an effort to increase this sense of interdependence and welcoming and invitationality. I think Mike Benetham might like that word, for all of us on the council. In the past few months, the Synod Council had the opportunity to take the Clifton Strengths Assessment, in part through a grant from Thrivent Financial. Thank you, Thrivent. The Clifton Strengths Assessment is a series of questions that helps the test taker discover their top 5 areas of personal strength. Now, there are 34 areas in 4 overarching themes, so you can just imagine the numerous possibilities and combinations of strengths. But we didn't have to imagine it, because the communications team, led by Amy Metelsky, was on it. Thanks to the technical chops of council members Tom Engel and Pastor Spencer Steele, who helped arrange, organize, and present the findings, we saw in cool, colorful graphs and pie charts that each of us was wildly and wonderfully unique. And yet, among all of us, we shared some fascinating similarities and some shared strengths. We understood then, especially, that we are a council possessing a wide and diverse breadth of strengths. And knowing what our strengths are individually isn't even the whole point. It's how we integrate those strengths into the positions we hold, the jobs we do, the points of view we hold, and how we make decisions individually and together as a part of the Synod Council. And we appreciate each other, I think, so much more, knowing just that little bit more about each other and why we operate the way we do. Please take this message back with you into your congregations. You, yes, you, can be a part of the Synod, and you will be warmly welcomed. There are committees, task forces, and councils, yes, even the Synod Council, that need and await you. I am proof that you do not need a Lutheran pedigree that goes back 100 generations like Carl. Carl is an aberration, an abomination. Tells you a little bit about this morning, right? Nah. Some of us are simpler people. We just care very much about our faith, our denomination, and doing the best we can with each other and for each other. If you've ever discounted yourself or thought perhaps you weren't enough to serve on Synod Council in some way, I beg of you, please don't do that. You might be the voice we're missing. And next year, when another round of terms and seats are set to end and seats are open, please think about what it might look like if you or someone you know and respect would possibly come on board to serve with us. Remember, the Synod and the Synod Council is us. It's you, all of you, and it depends on you participating and sharing with others the news that there is opportunity to participate. Consider the calls for leadership, especially if they are coming from Carl's phone number. Speaking of reaching out and touching someone, that's a throwback. This is the last year of this term as vice president, and for nearly half of that term, COVID has been a major damper. But I'll be out doing my utmost to be with you this year. Even if we still haven't met And if we haven't met, please, let's get on that. Be assured that your faithful witness, whether it's from the far corners of Berks County through the woods of Schuylkill to the very top of the Poconos, touches me and leaves its mark. You impact and strengthen my faith and reinforce my love for doing this work and being a part of this amazing synod. Unlike the birds and the bees and the milkweed and the wasps, we do not need each other necessarily to survive. We've got Amazon to help us out. But we do need each other to live in the fullness of Christ. Interdependence. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Vice President Edelman-Weiner. That was fantastic. Interdependence is true. Makes me think of that old, you know this, right? You know how this poem goes? What if we rethought this poem as, we are the church, we must remember. Open your hearts and become a member of Synod Council. And if people like I can be elected and called to be bishop, and people like Kristen can be called to be vice president, and the wonderful people that we have, it means that it's open to all of us. You bring who you are, and God lifts up all of that, weaves it together for God's will and God's love and God's life. Speaking of weaving together, yes, I love my segues, right? We are blessed in the Topton area with a team of congregations and leaders working together to give us another strong example of stronger together. And so, watch this video. Let's go.
I'm Pastor Ruth. I serve at New Jerusalem Lutheran Church, which is between Topton and Fleetwood.
I'm Pastor Marty Milne. I'm the pastor at Christ Mertz Lutheran Church in Dryville, just down the hill from Pastor Ruth.
And I'm Pastor Jeremiah Sassman, and I am the pastor of St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Mertztown here. This Lenten season for me here in Mertztown was my 16th Lenten season in the greater community. Over the years, it has always been a community endeavor. Now, each year we've kind of added more congregations as different pastors came, different pastors retired, different pastors moved around, different congregations saw new individuals in leadership. But it really has been an ongoing growth, and it has been a very positive thing. We've had a Baptist pastor down the hill and his congregation, that is a congregational life congregation, join in. We've had the congregation up the hill in Long Swamp here, a United Church of Christ, join in. We're looking at a good group of congregations, and we really enjoy the fact that each season different congregations send their pastor to preach, but they also take turns in hosting, putting together the liturgy and joining together in fellowship and lots of food together. So it's not just about the worship in our greater community unity, but also about literally breaking bread together, both in the sacrament and in fellowship.
I make the joke that particularly in this area, I've being the new guy, I see it as almost, not quite, but almost one large church, but having many open doors. So you could go to church at this one place and not feel concerned that, oh, they might take my person, they might steal my members. No, that's not the case, because if where I am and where Ruth is geographically, there's kind of an angled line that is drawn from New Jerusalem, which is up a hill, to where I am on kind of the lower part of a hill at Christ Mertz. And then if you go all the way down to the highway, along the highway you have Hope Bowers. And just running that straight line, all of these churches have had history together. And then that's the one end of the boundary, if you will. And then further, all the way on the other end of the boundary is exactly what Jeremiah was talking about, that you have St. Paul's Mertztown here, you have the Christian church, or the Christian Community Church that's over by the Radcliffe Market, you have the Bible Fellowship Church, and then of course Trinity Topton, which is smack dab in the heart of things. And then even if you want to go up the hill to the Lutheran home, you have the Community of Grace that's there as well. So just an immense Christian witness of both the Lutheran and Reformed traditions in the area.
There's St. Peter's in Topton, that's a UCC church, and Christ Along, which is back out near where Hope Bowers is. For many years, there's been an active ministerium, and that's part of how we get together and support one another and share ideas. This coming Saturday, we will have a celebration of ministries where all the congregations will come together in this building and put up a display about this is what happens at our congregation, these are the ways we minister, and it's not a competition, it's sharing ideas. And if you were interested in something at mine, come join us. Or I see something at yours, I've got an idea. And the ideas have already spread just talking about them. For instance, I mentioned that we were collecting Bibles for the prison, and Redeemer Bible Fellowship their rep went back and they decided to buy 25 new Bibles for the prison. So joined with ours, we took them out to the prison. Trinity Topton heard that we were doing crocheting things for the seafarers, and they asked for patterns on how do you make hats and cowls for seafarers. They've started back into doing some yarn ministry.
And I think the other thing that it shows is not only that we seek to focus our ministries on what is important within the community. Of course, the mission and the Word of God, the mission of Christ. We also like being with one another. I mean, we've actually found ways to increase the number of services we do together. We talk about Lent, we talk about Holy Week, but there is an opportunity, now we haven't grown it as much yet, but for midweek Advent services, we have had, over the last 5 to 10 years, a Community Ascension Day service, Community Thanksgiving Eve services. We enjoy being together, and I'm not going to sit here and say our congregations are packed on these nights. They're not necessarily, but one thing that is true is there is a broad variety of congregations represented, worshipers from all traditions and all of our Lutheran churches. So it's definitely something that we enjoy doing, and thankfully it not only can, but occasionally does spill over our community banks into the watershed of other communities, and we really want that to happen.
Another unique thing that is going on is that congregations are actually sharing resources to supply for one another. I happen to be the designated pastor for Hope Bowers, and their organist was serving as the organist for Trinity Topton for a period of time until they called a new director of music. And currently, their pastor, Scott Lingenfelter, is preaching on Sunday mornings, leading worship and the like at Hope Bowers. And that's going to go on for as long as it goes on. We all know the shortage of pastors and congregational ministerial leadership on Sunday mornings is very difficult at the present time. But that shared relationship is something that I find both helpful for the congregation in need, but I'm sure it gives Trinity Topton a huge uplift because they know that they're providing a ministry beyond themselves. So as the church gets smaller, I think more and more those relationships that are built among congregations are going to become more and more necessary. Because if you can't work together now, what's going to happen when things might get tighter and even smaller and more condensed? if the trust and the love and the compassion is not there now, I don't know what it's going to look like. You know, whether it's we're working well together, whether we're banging our heads together, whether we're you know, we don't agree on exactly the way everything needs to go. We're in conversation.
Having these conversations and talking about being one church with many doors, what is that going to look like for the future? Even for those congregations that are larger, they know that they have diminished in numbers and their members are aging. So it's a conversation that's important for everybody. And I value that it's creative conversations, not just, okay, you got so small you have to close, but okay, how does the church become the church that's needed for the future?
Wonderful. I really appreciate that idea of synergy and the connection that's going on in the Topton area, and how they've built this sense of camaraderie, but they're also continually open to ways that can be new and can expand. So looking forward to hearing more how Stronger Together works in that area. Very exciting. I now am glad to call forward Pastor Brandon Hefner to present our second report from the Committee of Reference and Counsel.
Hello and good morning, everyone. I've got this imagery from the bishop's sermon last night, so I want to say welcome to this divine mystery machine that we've been invited to hop along for the ride to see what God's doing in our midst. We did receive one additional submission last night, a resolution that we will be dealing with first. And what we'll be dealing with first is that 2005 action of this Synod's Assembly that requires any resolution submitted within the last 2 weeks before a Synod Assembly to be brought up for vote for consideration. So what we'll be talking about is this resolution and whether or not this assembly wants to consider it in its business through the rest of our assembly agenda. So I'm going to read that resolution, read the Reference and Counsel Committee's recommendation, and then offer a motion relating to that consideration. So I think we have visuals for that. This resolution number 6, concerning gun control legislation. Well, I think we're on a different one. We'll wait till we get that slide up. It's fun to be on the bus, isn't it? Thank you. So this 6th resolution submitted for consideration is a resolution concerning gun control legislation, and a resolution concerning gun control legislation. Tongue-tied this morning. And it reads, resolved that each mission district dean write a letter on behalf of his or her mission district membership to the senator representing them in Washington, D.C., requesting them to cooperate in bipartisan talks on gun control regulations. So that is the resolution presented. The recommendation of Reference and Counsel is that Committee of Reference and Counsel recommends that the proposed resolution concerning gun control legislation be referred to the Committee of Deans for their consideration with the support of this assembly. So that is the resolution that we have and the recommendation of Reference and Counsel. What we're discussing at this point is whether or not this resolution and the recommendation is to be considered by this assembly. So for that, I turn it back over to the bishop.
Thank you, Pastor Hefner. And a reminder that this was submitted by Sherilyn Schatz of the Christ Allentown. And as you just said, a reminder that we are going to be currently considering the motion, the resolution itself. Let me get this right. That we are currently only voting on considering the resolution and not the resolution itself. So that's where we're going to be headed in just a moment. Before we get to that, I do want to mention that, one, we are going in any time of discussion about a resolution or a memorial, and we will be organizing that discussion in for and against. But really, any conversation that we have from this point on, considering the number of things that we have in place, unless there are any objections right now from the floor, we are going to limit speaking time to 2 minutes per person per time speaking. So I will now pause to see if there are any objections to us limiting that time limit to 2 minutes. And we're pausing now. Please raise your hand if you are now objecting to that. If there's no objections, then we'll keep quiet. And Kristen, you have a clarification for us?
Yes, I would just like to make sure that it's clear, because this is calling for participation from our members, that only registered voting members are those who have voice in these proceedings. So please make sure that if you are raising your hand, you are also a registered voting member. Otherwise, you are welcome to discuss it with somebody else and with each other, but we cannot give you voice formally within the assembly at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Kristen, for that clarification. That's important. So let me once again state where we are at. We are inviting anyone to raise their hand if they have an objection for us setting a time limit on speaking of 2 minutes or less. And I am pausing now to see if there's any objection to setting that time limit. Seeing no objections coming through, we will then limit our time limit 2 minutes per person. You will see the timer on screen. And let me also say a couple of other pieces about that. One is that because of the technology we're working with, which is so fantastic in allowing us to be connected, I need to be quiet before someone else speaks. So I can't talk as easily in dialogue with someone, or none of us can, with someone who's on Zoom if we're a presenter here chairing the proceedings. That being the case, when I invite you to speak, and we'll talk about how to do that in just a moment, I will ask that you unmute, and we will start the timer at the 2 minutes. When 2 minutes ends, I will not cut you off. You will literally be stopped from being heard. The microphones will be cut off so that I can have room to then say that as ended, we go on to the next person. In addition, I would just recommend that if you can say something concisely, that I would invite you to do that, allowing more room for everyone to be able to speak. All right, we are now ready to, our next consideration is to whether this is being brought to the floor, because I don't see any other hand raised for that purpose. We are now waiting to see, the floor is now open to move as to whether we will consider this resolution or not. Would it help to put the resolution back on screen? We can do that. And I'm waiting now to call, this is a call on those who wish to speak about allowing this resolution to go forward. I see a hand raised. And again, I think that just to clarify here, and I'm confirming this with my production crew, that if you are speaking for, you should check the green box. Is that true in this case? So if you look in the Zoom, in the reaction section, you'll see that in addition to raising your hand, you have an option of checking either a green arrow that said, which would be for, or a red X, which is against. And this will help us to know and to balance who is speaking in each of the cases. All right? So I'm going to take the first person who has raised their hand, and that person is going to be Dan Raudenbush. Dan, in a moment when you unmute, we will start the timer, and I invite you to say your name and your congregation and where that congregation is before you begin your remarks. Dan, please unmute, and if you wish, put your video on, and we will take you now, and timer will start now.
Yes, I'm speaking for the resolution, and just ask that there be one clarification added to it. The have two senators. It says like the Dutch senator, and maybe have your Congress, different unions will have different congressmen, but they have the same two senators.
I am pausing to allow the audio to switch so that I'm not creating an echo chamber here. I need to remind Dan that what we are actually voting on is whether this will be considered or not. We're not talking about the actual resolution, so we appreciate that position. But right now, all we are doing is voting on whether we will consider this or not, and not the resolution itself. So just to clarify that, and it's probably helpful for me to be able to say that out loud to make it clearer. So again, if you have a comment to make for letting this resolution continue and be added to our set of resolutions, check that green box and you may speak. If you are against, check that red X and we will be able to hear your position as well. And I'm looking now to see if there are any hands raised for those purposes. I see no hands raised. And again, let me clarify one more time that the procedure works like this. If you wish to speak, you go to the raise your hand piece and raise your hand. You need to have both your hand raised and the box checked so we know that you want to speak and that you want to speak for or against. So that's how that, if you just check the box, that's insufficient. You need to also raise your hand so that we know that you want to speak. Also note, don't be afraid of the technology. If you click something on, you can click it off too, so it's not a big problem. I see that we have a hand raised, and I am uncertain if this is for or against. I don't see a listing on there, but the chair will recognize Pastor Thomas Irwin. Please unmute and turn your video on. Let the timer begin, and you may speak now.
This is just a point of order. We will be considering whether this will be presented to the Assembly, and not necessarily the recommendation of the committee, which will go to the Committee of Deans. Is that correct?
Now, our Chair of Reference and Counsel to respond to that. Brandon Hebner, do you know or have any response to that?
I do. Yeah, thank you, Pastor Tom. That is correct. We are voting on whether or not this submitted resolution will be considered by the Assembly at a later time during the course of our agenda. However, we wanted to present the committee's recommendation so that you were aware of it in your conversation and deliberation about whether or not we want to consider this. So yes, the point of order at this point is, will this be considered by the Assembly at a later time in our agenda? The recommendation is there for information at this time.
Thank you, Pastor Irwin. We are now moving on to Nadine Anderson. You may now unmute your audio, show your video, and you may speak, and the timer begins. You did yet.
I think we should consider this. If we cannot talk about whether or not we should recommend to our representatives, our political representatives, to do away with guns, what can we talk to them about? And by the way, I can only put up my thumb or the plus. I can't figure out how to do both the thumb up that I want to talk, and also get the plus or minus showing. That's all. Thank you.
Nadine, I appreciate that comment. If anyone's having difficulty, I think, doing any of those check marks or X's, You can also type into either help or let speak know that how you feel for or against, and that will allow us to be able to speak to that. Oh yeah, I'm being told not help, just speak. So speak is the one that'll get you straight to a response about, or let us know that how you wish to speak to the motion, for or against. So again, just saying that we are focusing on whether we are going to consider this resolution as one of the resolutions we consider here at this assembly. Our next speaker is Carl Kwan. Carl, you may unmute your audio and the timer will begin when you start speaking. You may unmute your audio and don't see you yet. Are you all right, I don't see that Carl is back on, and I don't have a note about what the situation is. So, Carl, we will get you back in the stack as we need to, and if we could fire you. It seems you lowered your hand, so there's a sense that you have withdrawn and left the microphone, as it were. So, our next hand raised is Mary Schwartz. Mary, please come on, unmute your audio. Let us know your name and your church and where that church is located, and the timer will begin when you speak.
I'm sorry, that was an error.
Thank you very much for admitting to that. I have to admit to 5 an hour, it feels, maybe a minute, of things that I press wrong on Zoom. Floor is still open for discussion. And again, just on preparing to vote for consideration of this resolution later in our program. I see there's a hand raised for Charles. We don't have any more name than that. So Charles, when I call upon you to speak, unmute your audio on Zoom and, oh, his hand is lowered. Okay, good. We're working out our raising and lowering of this hand, this technology, and this is a good practice. All right, and it's a big list of folks, so we're confirming and scanning. Again, this is why raising your hand is so critical. It moves you to the top of our stack. So just checking boxes of green check mark or red X is not the same as raising your hand first and then doing that. That allows you to go to the top of our very large list of folks. Thank you for your patience. I can see it looks like Bill Zimmerman and Chris Keller may have their hands raised, and I assume that they're coming in as well. All right, it says on my list here that first up we will have Bill Zimmerman speaking. So, Bill, if you will let us know, you know how this works now. Unmute your audio and let us know who you are, and you may start now.
Pastor Bill Zimmerman, retired pastor, a member of St. John's, Ringtown. I speak to whether we should be considering this simply because I think we might be wasting our time in addressing a very important issue. Having served as a dean, I don't think deans have the authority to write to anyone on behalf of their members of the district if the members of the mission district haven't voted to have them do that. So my concern is that we would spend time at the assembly discussing something that would just push it down the road when it is an issue that we might want to find a way to address as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. I appreciate that. And now we are moving on to another hand raised. It's from Chris Keller. So Chris, please unmute your audio and identify yourself and begin your presentation.
Hi, Chris Keller from Zion Speeds in Reading, PA. I just want to say I think I'm very pleased that the Synod is considering this resolution because of the seriousness of the issue. Who knows where it's going to end up, but I'm very pleased that the Synod is considering it. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we have another hand raised. It says Charles. And so please unmute your audio, identify yourself, your church, and where that church is located. You may begin speaking when you're ready.
I don't know whether you got that or not, Bishop, but this is Charles Hawk, St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Auburn, and I am hopeful that we could pursue this. In the times that we're in, it's necessary to have all voices we possibly can to support something as important as this. Thank you.
Charles, we did hear that. That's why I was smiling and nodding. We did hear you and allowed that comment to be lodged. So thank you very much. A hand is raised by Deb Taylor. Deb, you are now recognized by the floor. Please unmute your audio and tell us who you are and how you wish to respond.
Hi, I am Pastor Deborah Taylor, and I'm in from Christ Lutheran Church in Cunningham, and I would like to request that we call the question.
The motion has been made to call the question. I believe that takes a simple vote of majority to do that. So stand by. We are preparing for that vote, and that vote will be to whether we will end discussion or not. That's all we're voting on right now, is we're ending discussion on whether to consider this resolution. So we will do the vote on whether we will consider it or not as a separate second vote. The first vote is to decide whether we suspend our time of discussion. So we're standing by with that, getting our e-ballots folks ready. And if you have your e-ballot device or you're ready to do that on the computer, get ready to do that now. And again, you will see what we are voting on there, which is to suspend discussion of this resolution or this motion that's on the floor now. I think it's working quite well. I thank you for the setup that we've really kind of getting a groove now about how this works. Again, if you get any challenges along the way about how you are speaking or if you wish to speak, the process of raising your hand, and then if we're doing a discussion, it would be for or against. For is the green button that's on that reactions menu, and against is the red, and we have both of those things to respond to. And that's the procedure we'll use going throughout this time as we work. And if you do put your hand up, you would do well to type into the speak side what your hand is raised for, so they can let me know why you're bringing things forward. All right, we need to pause for just a moment, so give me a moment here as we resolve an issue that's coming up before us here.
Motion on the screen is shall consider the resolution presented.
Right, on the, hold on just a moment. Is it on the e-ballot screen or what's on our main Zoom screen?
Screen.
Okay. So currently you'll see in e-ballots, we might need to go back and fix a mistake in how that vote is set up. And so I'll probably invite someone to help Pastor Ken Melber to get that set up properly. And this is, again, just confirming that the issue might be the way that the vote is set up on e-ballots. Yeah, we opened up the wrong one by mistake, so we're going back and getting the right question up so that it's on e-ballots. So just to be patient with us again. We planned for about 99% of this, but there's always the 1% of the new stuff that comes in. And when that happens, it has to be done live, working with the e-ballot system to get that up to speed. So that's why you see something like this happening. It's certainly not from a lack of preparation. It's because we have to prepare for all the things we can imagine. And then when new things come up that we hadn't imagined, we have to create a new vote for them within the system. It would be the same if we were a person. We would have to take time to figure that out and prepare for that vote. So in many respects, this may seem more complicated, but it is actually just as complicated as it would be in person. And the technology helps us to do it swiftly in getting information out to you and placing that on two kinds of screens. Your e-ballot screen that you have and the Zoom screen when we can put things up and talk about them. Vote is live. So let us, thank you for that heads up for me. Let us begin now that vote. Voting is open. And now voting is closed. We have an overwhelming vote. We can see that on the screen here. 235 yes, 8 no. So we're good to call the question and move forward with the main topic at hand, which is now we are ready to vote on whether we are going to consider this resolution or not as one of the 6 resolutions that we could have at this assembly. And so our next vote will be whether or not we will consider this as a resolution we will address here at this assembly. So just stand by. We're getting that vote loaded up, and that will again appear on your e-ballots. And we're resetting everybody's position there so they'll be able to refresh and be able to get that new vote coming up on the system. All right, we're almost there. We're getting loaded up. Everyone is prepared to vote. And again, you will be voting on the consideration, whether we consider this resolution as one of the resolutions we will address here at this assembly. All right, our vote is ready to go. And let us begin voting now. Votes are coming in. Okay. All right. Why don't we find out from Ken? Yeah, I think that there was a little bit of a glitch in the system on that one, so we're going to redo that vote again and reset that up. So I'm going to let our voting team know that we can get that set up. So again, this same question, it will be voted on again, just to make sure that the technology works properly for us. So we're going to reload and reboot that, whether we consider this resolution or not, and make sure that everyone had an opportunity to vote. Some of the systems were freezing at that point. We want to make sure that the system is running properly. You know, it's at a moment like this where I really am blessed to know that we've got folks who are all working together interdependently. And also, I call to mind, Philippians. I can do all things through God who strengthens me. I think that that's done in first person I, but I think it's really a lot bigger than that. I think it's meant to be an inclusive sense that God is strengthening all of us. And so that's my prayer for us, Lord. Continue to strengthen us, empower us up through this process as we work through the technical points, but we also make sure that we're doing all we can to make sure every voice is heard and we're able to do these votings in a way that gives you glory and make sure that we are focused on those who would most be in need based on what we're voting on. So Lord, hear our prayer. So our voting is good and it's live again, and we can give a shot at going through this. You'll see what the consideration is again. It's considering this, whether we move forward with this resolution. So voting is open. Please vote now. Well, we're working on our voting situation, and I think some of the starting up and refreshing again has made it somewhat stuck for some of our voting members to be able to vote. So we're going to need to suspend this voting process and come back to it until we can fix those pieces out. And so I'm going to invite us now to move into a growing young segment, which will give us some exciting information and excitement to be working on. And also a bit of video that I think will also be fun. So I'm going to turn this over now to Lauren Applegate, who is our convener of the Youth, Young Adult, and Family Ministry team. And she's going to have another fun video that was put together by her and Stacy. I won't say any more about it. I'll let her take it over, and she can take it from there. Go for it, Pastor Applegate.
Thank you, Bishop. You'll see in this next video that prioritizing young people and their families everywhere may throw us some curveballs along the way. There may be things we need to navigate and pay attention to. We'll likely encounter obstacles along the way of prioritizing young people. And so it is our hope that you will continue to see, or you will come to see, that the actions of prioritizing young people and their families everywhere is worth the effort. Here's now our next example. Well, looks like that might be about it.
That's good, because we're running out of room.
It's a shame we don't have a larger space. Think of all the more people we could help if
we just had more room.
I'm just glad that we were able to help the amount of people that were able to help.
Yeah, well, we might as well start getting ready. People are going to show up soon.
Yep.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Oh, this is wonderful. Thank you so much for your dedication and hard work towards the food bank. It definitely helps to feed my family of 5. It's hard to feed family of 5 with only food stamps. I'm so glad we can help. What a cutie. He's getting so big. Yeah, I can't believe it. I just can't wait till he's potty trained so we can cut down the cost of diapers. You don't have any, do you?
Sadly, we do not. With the confined spaces, we just don't have the room to fit them.
It's okay. I thought I'd ask anyway. But thank you so much. Have a great day. You too. Thank you.
Man, I wish we could have done so much more for her.
Well, we did all we can do, unless you have a diaper genie you can call upon for 3 wishes. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hey, I'm great this week. We got a lot of products in here.
Well, that's good.
Do you have any baby diapers? There was a mom who came in last week and needs some diapers.
Teddy, I told you, we can't have diapers. We bring them this week, she'll expect them next week, and we just don't have the space for that.
I suppose. Hey, we can give her extra food so she can use the food stamps for baby diapers.
Teddy, I'm afraid you can't use food stamps to buy diapers.
Really? That's a shame.
Yeah, diapers, hiney wipes, things like that can't be used. You can't use food stamps for those.
There has to be some other way that we can help her with her food problems. I've got it! So that is why we need to start a gift card drive. There's a lot of families with infants and children, but it's the necessities that are not always stored in our compact food bank. As a congregation, we need to prioritize the young people and families everywhere. That doesn't just mean our immediate congregation, but also the community family. Our support goes a long way, and the families that come to the food bank see that. Let's make sure our congregation is growing young.
That was fun, huh? More of hearing from our own flow. We are working on the e-ballot system. It's more likely that we need to do some connections with them and that no voting will occur until our 4th plenary. So we'll be doing a lot of catch up and we'll be doing our best to make sure we can fit it as much as possible. We all know that the constitutional reality is if we can't get to everything, it can go to Synod Council, but we want to get in as much as work done here at this assembly as we can. So we will be working on making those fixes, and we hope that all voting will be up and running once again when we get to the 4th plenary at 1 o'clock. So we're going to continue following in our agenda, and I am really glad now to turn over the podium to go in deeper about what our mission interpreters do for us and the work that they do together with our congregations. I'm glad to welcome Charlotte Gross.
Hello, thank you for having me. Yes, I co-coordinate mission interpretation ministry with Georgia Suranovsky for our synod. That is to share stories of our collective ministries, supported by our mission support, benevolence giving, by our congregations to the synod, which gets divided between the synod and the ELCA. I have a story to share with you today, just one of countless stories that go to print for us in such ELCA publications as Living Lutheran, Stories of Faith in Action, Lifelines, Boundless, and in our own Synod News. Watching your child take his or her first steps is one of the most exciting moments in a parent's life. But what if your child has a disability and those steps don't come so easily, or at all? Through the years, parents faced with this dilemma have come to Good Shepherd Rehabilitation Network, looking for help and finding it. One of the rehabilitation technology stars in Good Shepherd Pediatrics Toolbox is the Trexo Plus. This innovative wearable robotic gait trainer helps children with spasticity and mobility challenges walk, perhaps for the first time. Thanks to our generous supporters, including the Northeast Pennsylvania Synod, Good Shepherd has acquired a total of 6 Trexo devices in small, medium, and large sizes for children as young as 1 through their teen years. This makes Good Shepherd the only pediatric rehabilitation provider in the United States to offer all 3 sizes for both inpatient and outpatient rehabilitation settings. Children who benefit from using the life-changing technology are diagnosed with cerebral palsy, pediatric stroke, spinal cord injury, gait disorders, or other mobility problems. The device's brightly colored legs allow children to walk hands-free in a safe, correct, and consistent manner, all under the watchful eye of trained Good Shepherd staff. Trexo is one piece in an array of technology used by Good Shepherd Pediatrics and supported by the Assistive and Rehabilitation Technology Fund. And this story was contributed by Kimberly Stolaric, Interim Administrative Director of Development at Good Shepherd. So I get the privilege of adding a thank you to others for your mission support giving. And we also invite you to support these Stronger Together ministries in prayer. We would be happy to be of service in visiting your congregation to thank them for their giving to mission support and to share more inspiring stories. And we invite anyone to join us in our efforts in our ministry of mission interpretation by sharing your stories of ministry with us and by helping to share stories with those who make them possible as we work to do. We welcome you to join us. Thank you so much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Charlotte. I deeply appreciate the work that you all do and also lifting up that those Good Shepherd rehabilitation connections. It's so valuable and important. And part of that Stronger Together that we have through the partners that we have in ministry together. I also am ready now to connect you with our own secretary again, who has his report ready to go. So we're going to be hearing next from our secretary of the Synod and Synod Counsel to present the secretary's report, and that goes to Carl Shankweiler.
Thank you, Bishop. Although the secretary is normally expected simply to draw attention to the report of the secretary and ask for corrections to be sent in, this year I gave notice that I actually want to talk about this report, which you will find on pages 11 through 16 of the Bulletin of Reports. Did you study it carefully? If you did, you may have noticed what I want to point out. That is, since our last assembly, we list 2 ordinations of ministers of word and sacrament, 2. During the same period, we list 12 retirements, 12. Compare those numbers, 2 pastors coming in, 12 pastors going out, a net loss of 10. Now granted, we also receive pastors from other synods, but we lose some too to other synods. Granted, some retired pastors continue to serve in significant ways, but not usually after they're dead. And last year we had 11 deaths, sadly to say. But you may wonder, was last year an odd year? What's it like going back several years? Well, for the last 5 years, the tally has been as follows. Ordinations, 13. Retirements, 48. Deaths, 47. The discrepancy between ordinations 13 and retirements 48 was 35. During those 5 years, only in 2018 did we witness a large number of ordinations, 8, but even that year, there was one more retirement than ordination. It is increasingly true that with ever fewer pastors, those pastors need to be shared. Consider the example of Dinky Memorial, Ashfield, and Trinity Bowmanstown. They and their pastor, the Reverend and concerned Anthony Pagato, have worked out an agreement with St. John Mahoning to become a three-way parish. The vote to approve their plan will occur this Sunday. Ashfield and Bowmanstown did not need to include Mahoning. That is, they could afford Pastor Pagato all by themselves. But they were concerned that Mahoning needs a pastor too, and so they looked to sharing theirs. Do you know that old song? The man who has plenty of good peanuts and giveth his neighbor none, shalln't have any of my peanuts when his peanuts are gone. Here it is, sung by a certified opera singer, Amanda Kreider.
The man who has plenty of good peanuts and giveth his neighbor none, he shan't have any of my peanuts when his peanuts are gone. When his peanuts are gone, when his peanuts are gone, he shan't have any of my peanuts when his peanuts are gone. The man who has plenty of good peanuts and giveth his neighbor none, he shan't have any of my peanuts when his peanuts are gone.
Is that song Christian? No. Even when the selfish man with the peanuts runs out of them, the parable of the prodigal son would still encourage us to welcome him into our peanut emporium. But at least the song does remind us that conditions change, and that even if you don't share your peanuts or pastors out of Christian charity, sharing might still be prudent, in that the time could easily come when you will be the ones lacking and want others to share with you.
A church that hath plenty of good pastors and giveth their neighbors none, they shan't have any of my pastors when their pastors are gone. When their pastors are gone, when their pastors are gone, they shan't have any of my pastors when their pastors are gone. The church that has plenty of good pastors and giveth their neighbors none, they shan't have any of my pastors when their pastors are gone.
Thank you for reading and for thinking deeply about the dull, inspiring, and thoroughly bureaucratic report of the abominable secretary.
Thank you, Carl. That's fantastic. We appreciate that. And you are nothing but a treasure, and we know that to be the case. Before we get to what's close to our last segment here for this plenary, I do want to make it clear and to give you a new update on our voting system. So we found that the best way to solve all issues across the board is for, and I'm quoting this exactly, all voting members to log out using the log out link in the upper right corner and to log back in with their credentials. And this should fix any voting issues we have, and we'll be ready to be fully empowered to do all our voting after our lunchtime break and when we come back for Plenary 4. So make sense? We'll probably say it again just before we log out. But right now, I want to, I'm really excited because we get to hear from people who I think are spreading the gospel in such powerful ways to such important groups of people that are making such a difference in the world today. And they are our wonderful co-ministers with us, stronger together in their ministry up at Bear Creek Camp. And now I am glad to turn it over now live to the executive director of Bear Creek Camp, and that's Colin Grooms. Go for it, Colin.
Good morning. Thank you, Bishop. Thank you, this assembly. These are just a few of the members of the 2022 Bear Creek Camp summer staff. We're excited to be here in this space to share with you. believe we're going to start with a video, and then you're going to hear some stories from these folks, and we brought some songs along as well, as we're excited for summer camp, which starts just 1 week from tomorrow. Hello, and greetings to you in Christ from Bear Creek Camp. I'm Colin Groom's Executive Director, and it is my privilege to serve this organization and our Synod through this important ministry. I'm grateful for all of you in this assembly doing the important and challenging work of shaping our Synod as we work together in shared ministry. When we gathered in this digital space last year, Bear Creek Camp was about to embark into the new unknown that was summer camp following the great pause of 2020. I'm thrilled to reflect back on summer 2021 as so many campers, parents, and summer staff said that it was unequivocally their best summer ever. This past year has been an opportunity for our ministry to focus on the best of what Bear Creek Camp has always stood for, building Christ-centered, radically accepting community through time set apart in creation. Our changing world and health and safety considerations challenged us to enter into a time of reinvention as we found new ways to ground ourselves in that vision, and a time of rediscovery as so much of what has been at our core since the founding of Bear Creek and even before at our predecessor camps still makes an impact in today's world. In short, Bear Creek Camp continues to provide amazing opportunities for people of all ages to be welcomed, challenged to grow, and then sent back out into the world empowered to share Christ's love. Myself and Caitlin Blend, our program director, had the opportunity to travel around to many of your congregations this winter and spring to build relationships and share about BCC. In those visits, we heard countless stories of the positive impact that Bear Creek Camp has had on so many unique parts of our communities. We also saw firsthand the challenges that many of our congregations are experiencing, particularly as we return to in-person connection opportunities as we minister with our young people. Bear Creek Camp is here to stand with you and support you however that may look in this time of transition. We hope that as you're innovating in your congregation, you'll consider how BCC can play a role as a partner in ministry. As you're watching this, our summer staff are in the midst of 2 weeks of intensive training and community building. We welcome our first campers on June 19th, and this summer we'll host 7 weeks of youth camp and 1 week of family camp. Our summer theme this year is Wild Abundance, as we explore the vastness that is God's love and care for us. I can't wait, as camp will soon be filled with laughter and learning, worship and prayer, individual growth, and building of community. All that we do relies on our synods, congregations, and so many individuals. From participation in camps and retreats, to prayerful support, and of course, we cannot say thank you enough for those that support the ministry and mission of Bear Creek Camp through financial gifts throughout the year. We truly are stronger together. By having campers attend camp, we are building and encouraging the next generation of God's faithful people that will be carrying out the good news of the gospel in your community. I'm encouraged by our Synod's commitment to taking on the challenge of growing young and vital. Camp experiences can be an essential element for equipping both campers and our young adult staff to be ready to be active participants in this movement in your community. It's not too late to get your congregation's youth involved with camp this summer. Registration remains open for all age groups throughout all of our summer sessions. We're also looking forward to retreats for youth, families, and adults into this fall, winter, and spring. The best way to stay connected with Bear Creek Camp is to visit our website, bearcreekcamp.org. There you can find information on all of our opportunities and sign up for our email newsletters. I also invite you to follow us on social media, both Facebook and Instagram. Find us at Bear Creek Camp. Thank you to Bishop DeForest and the entire Synod Assembly team for inviting me to share with you in this space. May God bless you all and the important work you're doing in this time. See you at camp soon.
Hi, I'm Lydia Hiller. I'm from Morfordsburg, Pennsylvania, and I'm on the summer staff as a counselor this year.
Hi, I'm Kurt Schermacher. I'm from Rochester, New York, and I am a counselor this year.
Hi, I'm Natalie Green. I go to church in Ole, PA at Friedens, and I'm also a camp counselor this year.
Hi, my name is Emma Haggerty. I'm from Cresskill, New Jersey, and I am on the support team this summer. We are going to start off with one of the songs that we sing at camp with our campers over the summer. It is called One Day, and it goes like this.
Though the storm keeps a-blowing and the rain keeps a-flowing, I know I'm going to see the Lord one day. Though the storm keeps blowing and the rain keeps flowing, I know I'm going to see the Lord one day. Though the storm keeps blowing and the rain keeps flowing, I know I'm going to see the Lord one day. Take up the cross, follow the boss, let Jesus lead, both you and me, in Him abide, and He will guide, He knows the way, every day, Though the storm keeps blowing and the rain keeps flowing, I know I'm going to see the Lord one day. Though the storm keeps blowing and the rain keeps flowing, I know I'm going to see the Lord one day. He's never wrong, so sing this song, He's always right, both day and night, He's coming back, and that's a fact, to take us home, up to His throne, Though the storm keeps blowing and the rain keeps flowing, I know I'm going to see the Lord one day. Though the storm keeps blowing and the rain keeps flowing, I know I'm going to see the Lord one day. We're singing, oh, to see the Lord one day. We're singing, oh, to see the Lord one day. Though the storm keeps blowing and the rain keeps flowing, I know I'm going to see the Lord one day. Though the storm keeps blowing and the rain keeps flowing, I know I'm going to see the Lord one day. To see the Lord one day. To see the Lord one day.
Alrighty, I guess I'm first.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Do you have one more for us? Do you want to send us out on a song, or are you done?
We're gonna start with two experiences that we have with camp, and then we're gonna do.
Please do share. Go right ahead.
So I'm first. Again, I'm Kurt. And another thing about me is I love to sleep. Gosh, before I came to camp, I think I was getting up at 2 in the afternoon. It was. So before I came to camp, I loved to sleep. I didn't really go to church very often. It just wasn't something I was interested in. But I started going to camp, I think, in 2014. And it's so, obviously it's fun. There's games, there's the lake, there's high ropes. But there's such a great spiritual element to it as well. I know the chapel and the sanctuary there are such spiritual places. You really feel connected to God and all of His creation. And after I get home from Bear Creek, I wake up at 8 a.m. each Sunday, and I go to church. And if that's saying something, let me tell you.
Hi, I'm Natalie, and one of the things that I really experienced through camp is the community that we create. I've been going to camp since I was a junior, so I started coming after second grade, and I'm still friends with some of those people that I started with that same year. In fact, we're even on staff together this summer, which is crazy to me that it's we've stayed together this whole time. But making those friendships and going to camp and even
being there with your counselors and other kids from all over the place is just so cool to experience so many different things with so many cool people. And it made me want to come back every single summer. In fact, I never missed a session. Always going back, always seeing the same people, and that's what made me want to be a counselor, and that's what makes Bear Creek so great.
We are going to close out with one last song. It is called They Will Know We Are Christians / Awesome God. It goes like this.
We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. And we pray that all unity will one day be restored. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. Yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. And they'll be singing, our God is an awesome God. They reign from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. We will work with each other. We will work side by side. We will work with each other. We will work side by side. And we'll guard each one's dignity and save each one's pride. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. Yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. And they'll be singing, our God is an awesome God. They reign from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. We will walk with each other. We will walk hand in hand. We will walk with each other. We will walk hand in hand. And together we'll spread the news that God is in this land. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. Yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. And we'll be singing, our God is an awesome God. They reign from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. And we'll be singing, our God is an awesome God. They reign from heaven above with wisdom, power, and love. Our God is an awesome God. Our God is an awesome God.
There's still time to register for summer camp. Come join us for a week full of songs and activities and worship in God's creation. All these registration forms and more information about camp can be found at bearcreekcamp.org. And also join us this Thursday on our Facebook page for our Streams and Stories event, where you can learn more about camp and explore it online, and also help support our Campership Fund, which helps bring kids to camp. Thank you.
Yes, fantastic. Thanks for joining us live here. It's fantastic. Wild abundance. I feel it, and boy, do we need it. And we are so glad that you made time to come all the way in here to visit with us and be with the whole assembly here this day. So let's do our virtual applauses or whatever once again for the Bear Creek Camp crew and the good work that they do. So I'm going to give you some quick announcements before we go into our lunch break. First of all, again, about voting. If you log out using that link in the upper right corner of e-ballots and then log back in with your credentials, that should clear you through for a lot of the voting we're going to get to do this afternoon. So go for that again. You'll see it continually brought up in the message section there, the chat section as well from our good people who are running things technologically. They mentioned going online and getting, connecting with social media. We say do the same. So we're going to be putting up a slide here and have this going into break. We put this slide up earlier and mentioned it, but we're mentioning it again, and we're going to keep mentioning it, that if you want to interact with each other online, please do so, because our Northeast Pennsylvania Synod has a lot of ways to connect: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you'll see those addresses coming up. Be sure and go in and share your excitement, share stronger together in that way. It's also vital. We had this offering during our worship last night, but this offering stays live throughout our assembly time. But we as a synod are committed to fighting world hunger. And so if you, there'll be a link in chat. There is a link in chat that you can click to make a donation to ELCA World Hunger. You can also text NEPS to 73256. We'll get that up on a screen for you too very soon. And also donate that way. You can also click the donate button that's on our website. So you've got 3 powerful ways to do that. Just go to godslove.org and you got it done. You've seen slides and stuff, my presentation, other presentations. We're going to be putting everything up on that assembly page. So be watching for that as we go forward from here. And we are moving now into a lunch break time. This is the thought. Because all that voting is going to be live and we've got a lot of it to do, let's do our best to roll into this break, do what you have planned. But if you could get back up on Zoom sometime like 15 minutes before 1, our official start time is 1, we'll play some videos and things that'll move in. That's moving some of our content around a little bit. It's not changing our agenda, but some of our greetings and things we want to be able to get in. And so we may be playing some videos and things that happen at like 12:45, so come on back in if you can to see some more interconnections we have within the Synod. But we'll be officially in at 1 o'clock to continue with our work this afternoon and get as much done as we possibly can by our 3 o'clock deadline. God bless you. Take care. Have a great lunch. Lord, bless all the food that is out there. Bless all the people and the hands that made it. Bless this time of being stronger together and strengthen us through food and drink and fellowship. In Jesus' name, amen. See you back soon.